Really lovely structured shape, and I did the smaller one first. I called it the Pollyanna bag because it was the Oprah last month, so we're on to P. So we have the smaller version here and we have the larger version there. Now with the smaller version, it just has the flap just here. Let's just open it up and whoops, get the handles out of the way, and you've got a nice big section there. But the larger one, what I've done, we have got the flap just here, but I've also put cam snaps just here, okay, so that it closes together and keeps together. So this side, as you can see there, and you've got an even bigger space within there. So I thought I've done shorter handles. Could have had longer handles. Can you see how they splay a little bit if you don't have the poppers on? But the choice is yours. So those are the Pollyanna bags. So I'm going to start by showing you how to make it. And believe you me, it is very, very easy. So what we will need, we're going to do whatever sizes are in the PDF. We will be having this are the side panels. So we will need 2 pieces of outer fabric, 2 pieces of fusible fleece, and 2 pieces of lining fabric. So I have made one up already, but this is what I'll be showing you now, because the technique is exactly the same for all 3 pieces. So we shall make 2 side panels from the pieces like this, and then the outer panel that goes all the way round, we have 1 outer piece, 1 fusible fleece, and 1 lining fabric. So you will also need, which I have made up already, a 4-inch wide strip of fabric to make your handles, made in the exact same way as usual by folding your 4-inch wide fabric in half with wrong sides together. And once they're folded, we press, then we open out and we fold in the outside edge to the crease on both sides, and then fold it in half again and press. Then top stitch down both sides. So I've got a whole width of fabric, and then just cut it in half. So I've got 2 handles there. Then you will also need, this is for the flap to close the bag, 2 pieces of your outer fabric, or it could be a contrast, absolutely what you like, and a piece of fusible fleece. Now I used a narrower piece down the middle of this, just for turning. You can do that anytime you're making anything, because by not having the fusible fleece going to the outer edges, it just means you've got less bulk when you are top stitching. But yeah, I just decided on this piece to have a smaller bit, but you could have exactly the same size as well. So 2 of those. Right, so what we're going to do first of all then is we will take our first square, and I've got a directional pattern, but it sort of looks similar whichever way. So I'm not really worried about, what way round I have it. If you have got a directional fabric, I would make sure that it's the right way up. And also then, when we put our lining fabric right sides together, like so, I'm going to put a pin in the centre just to hold this together. I would then think about leaving my gap at this bottom edge, because this bottom edge then is going to be attached to the main part. So I actually particularly like stitching with the lining on the underside. So my lining here, because you will probably find, I do from time to time, that when you've got the lining on the top, which I normally do, sometimes as you're stitching, this stretches a bit so that it's a bit longer than the edge that you're stitching it to underneath. And that's because of the way the feed dogs work. But if you start on the top fabric, so the lining is underneath, it doesn't do that. So I'm going to start stitching on my, let's see, I'm going to work with that side, it's slightly bigger there. I'm going to stitch on my fusible fleece side. So I'll just flip that over. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and there we are. I'm going to leave my gap just here. And when I start, I'm using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm using a 2.5, 2.6 stitch length. And when I start, I'm going to reverse here as well, just to hold that. So I'm going down to the corner and I'm going to pivot. And what I will say about this is that the more accurate you are with your 1/4 inch seam allowance, the better it will fit. There we are, when we come to put it together. But it won't be extremely noticeable if it's slightly, the size is slightly bigger than, I think, oh no, yes, I'm okay there, that's all right. I thought I'd gone a little bit too far there, but no, we were just right. So let's go along here. There we are. Oh, that's too far. One back there. And then around, this is where I'm leaving my gap. So I'm leaving probably a 3 inch or so gap so that I can turn it nice and easily. Okay, so let's just take that out. Now I'm going to set this aside for the moment and I'll show you what we do next, because I'm going to do now the outer fabric before I turn this through and press it. I'll pop it over there. But I'm going to use the outer piece at the moment so that I can go to the ironing board just once. So we are going to do similar, but we're going to put our handles on here before we stitch the lining fabric to the outer fabric. So as you can see, my fusible fleece is already on there. Now I'm going to put one handle at each end of a short side, and I am going to pop this an inch from the long edge of the main part. Just going to get a ruler so that I can measure. So let's just get myself an inch there. So I'm going to put my handle to there, and we'll put a little clip to hold that. Whoops. And then we will bring this around, making sure it's not twisted. And we'll do this one an inch from this edge as well. So there is my ruler. Whoops, inch. Pop that up to there and pop the clip on just to hold that in place. And then if I swivel this around to the other end, we may as well do both at the same time. So there is my ruler with an inch, and let's just pop the handle right next to there, and then similarly on this side. So just making sure this is not twisted, and then we'll pop our inch line there, and that's it, that's right up to there. So there we are for that one as well. And I've got used to now stitching these on rather than putting a pin and doing the adding the lining fabric at the same time. It just makes well, it saved me pricking my fingers basically. So let's stitch across here, do a reverse if you'd like to, and then move to the next one just to hold these in position for when we stitch it together. So that's one end, and swivel it around to the other and make sure that, so I'm stitching within the seam allowance, so I'm probably about 1/8 of an inch from the edge, but just make sure it is attached, because believe you me, I've done it before when it's not attached properly, and therefore it doesn't end up in the seam allowance as it should do. I've also taken to cutting off these bits of thread, otherwise I get really annoying little bits which I don't like. So because we've got these handles which are dimensional, it means that this, when we put the lining fabric right sides together, it doesn't sit very easily. So what are we going to do here? I'm going to put a few pins. So let's put a pin up that end and here, just to keep them together while we're sewing certain bits. So I'm also going to leave a gap in one of these long edges and probably around central so that we stitch that all together at the same time. So what I'm going to do is at the minute, I'm just pulling these out of the way so that I can get to, let's just see, I'm going to pull that lining fabric up so it does a line at this end, and let's just put a pin in there like so that we know that fits quite nicely along there. And then I've got the handles coming out of the side, and I say roughly halfway. So unfortunately this time it is easier to have your lining on the top because you can't see as well on the underside. So I'm going to start around here and just a stitch there, and I'm just making sure I'm holding the lining fabric firmly down so that it doesn't stretch further than our outer fabric. Okay, so pivot round, and at this point we are going over our handles, and if you want to make it a little bit stronger, you could reverse over the handles like so, and similarly at this end. That's it, we can just reverse over there and come to this side. Okay, and then we're going to come down on along this edge. So the handles have to be tucked in, so you will need to pull this across to make sure it still lines up down this edge. But we're on a long straight now, so let's just pull that across, making sure we don't stretch it, but just pull that across, make sure it evenly stitches down this side. And then I'll take this handle, push it out of the way there, and look at this end here to make sure that matches as well for when we're stitching along this edge. Now, you see, as I pull it, you can see it's not lining up, and it's because this handle is here. So just move that across. You can't just put your finger down because it pulls it further away. So just pull that across and either pin it, or as I'm doing, I'm just keeping my fingers down, holding it together so that I know that is all aligned right to the very end here, and we don't get any excess fabric being pushed. Right, one more. So now we've got to the top again. So I'm going to take that pin out just there, but we'll need to tuck these handles in and toward the other side. So now I'll pull that flat. We can line that up. And as I say, if you want to put pins in there, by all means do. But I'm just going to go over that handle and reverse a little bit just for a little bit of extra strength. And then keeping that aligned there, we'll go over this other handle as well. And a little bit of reversing. And then up to this corner. Okay. So now, again, because the handles are inside here, just tuck them away. And I'm just going to, I will start off because the fabric aligns really nicely at the beginning, but it's where the bulk of the handles starts pushing outwards. Okay, so that is lining up pretty nicely. My stitching starts here, so I'm just going to hold that together, and we'll leave, say, a 3 or 4 inch gap, and then just reverse there. Okay, so I've gone all the way around. You can see that lumpy bit. See that lumpy bit there? So all I'm going to do now, oops, no, I've forgotten something, haven't I? No, I've got the handles. I thought I'd forgotten those. No, I haven't. Right, so I'm going to trim off these corner points. So there's 1, 2, 3 and 4. So while I've got my scissors to hand, I can trim these corner points off too. 1, 2, 3, 4. And where the gap is, so on my smaller bit here, here is my gap. What I find to get a good join, when we close the gap, sometimes it's quite difficult to make it line up so it's nice and straight. So I just get where the stitching stops, I just push the seam allowance back and give that a finger press along there. And that really does help with aligning it. So similarly here, there's my stitching. So I'm just going to push this bit back at where it's stitched, and it gives you that similar line, the 1/4 of an inch. So I'm just going to turn that back along there and finger or nail press like so. And then when we turn it through, it lines up really, really nicely. So having done that, I'm now going to put my hand in here and I go to the farthest corner and I'll put my finger or my nail in there and poke it through, and then we can poke that other one through as well. And if you can get your finger into that corner just to poke it out, it helps. Okay, so there is one end there, and then we need to get this other end. So let's just get to there, put my finger in and pull it. Whoops. There we go. And we've got this other one, the other corner there. So once we've pushed that through, we can then push the corners out even more and make it nice and sort of fairly pointy. So let's see, let's go back to where our gap is, and we'll just put something fairly pointed into that corner and push it out. We will do the same on the other side. This side didn't get pushed out very well, but we can push that towards the edge and there, and then we can go down to the other end. Okay, and just push that one out too. So let's see, getting caught up in, that's it. So that one's come out really nicely. And then this one here, just push that one out. Okay, so that's ready for pressing, which we'll do in a second. And then this one where I've pulled, this is one of my side pieces. I'm going to push that in. Push that in there. And the other corner as well. So if you can get your finger or your nail into that corner to push out the majority of the corner, just makes it easier to just make it nicely pointy, slightly rounded pointy. And there we are. Okay, so into the gap. And you can see how I'm pushing my scissors like that, not like that, until I come to that corner point. And I will push it a little bit, but quite gently, because I have pushed my scissors through a corner before very, very easily. So I'm going into this other corner now. That one came out nicely. Then I can flip that one over, push it out to the sides, and then carefully into that corner. That's nice too. And then this one as well. That's it. Not bad. Okay, so that's ready for our pressing. So let's see. I've brought the ironing board over here now. And hopefully what I can do is bring, that's it. So the camera is there. So how we're going to start with this is we are going to, I like to do from the lining side to begin with. So I have put that on, yep. We can just, it does just fall really nicely. So this is the side without the open edge. And I'm just going to iron up there first of all. And then let's come around here. So we'll come along the top edge here. And then we can move that across, whoops, there we are, up to that top edge as well. Just make sure that is pulled out properly. Yes, that's it. Ow. A bit of steam there. Okay. So now we have the bulk of the outer edge. We now just want to, I haven't pressed that. Right, we now just want to tuck this edge in. So I'm just going to push that under and then line up the edge here like that, because I want the lining not to bulge out, but I want that to be all in line. So we're tucking a little bit under. That piece is already nail pressed, and just tuck that in. And that one also, that one just hasn't gone in quite enough. That's better. Let's just, takes a little bit of doing when, that's it. When you're doing it and nobody's watching you, it is so much easier. So I can see I've got that in place there. Get out of the way, the handles. And let's just pull that across a little bit. And once I've done this, I am actually going to put clips on there to hold that together nicely. Okay, so have I got that all over there? So I want that to come. That one's not quite, there we are. So once we have that lined up and no lining showing, oh, that was a hot bit of steam, then you can see on the reverse, whoops, no, I don't want to, I want to go straight down onto where I have pressed before, otherwise we press it open. So having done that, let's get 2 or 3 clips. You see that's nice and straight now. There's 1 and there's 2, just to keep it together. So that way, that's all nice and neat. And it just looks like it is a seam that has been joined already and turned through. So we'll go on to our side panel. So you'll do 2 of these, exactly the same. And there we have our little lining seam. I'll just give that a little press, and then I can just tuck that under to line up. And you see that one, oh, almost, has gone perfectly. So let's just put a bit of steam on there. So that, there we are. And then this side, we'll make sure that's tucked in. That just came out just a little bit. So that one is, there we are. It needs to go on just a little bit more so it doesn't, we don't want it bulging out in a curved way. Oh dear. So having done that, again, pop some binding clips on just to hold those edges, not inside, but there we are, just to hold those together. So that is all done, ready for the next part. Okay, so we have 1, we have 2, so there are my 2 side pieces, and there is my main piece. Now we're not going to, there we are, we're not actually going to top stitch around these. Let's put another thing just there, that's it. But what we're going to do is at this point, we are going to find the center of this long edge. And how I did that was to fold it in half. Actually, I'm going to fold it the other way. Fold it in half and line up the edge with the handles on and hope that there we are. So let's just pop that there, line it up nicely the whole way down, and then get yourself a pin, not a bent pin, or a marker, and pop a pin right on that center. So we'll do it on this side also. line up what will be the top edge, bring that all the way down, and pop ourselves a pin right in, let's just get it here, right in the centre. So that is going to be the centre. Okay, there we are. So I've got 2 pins there, which mark the centre. And then similarly with these, so where your open edge is, that's where we're going to find the centre of that edge. We don't need to do both ends. Now what I might do here is pop the clip just there, but mark that or align those corner parts, and then so that we can get the exact centre just there. So it's only the one we need on that side. And then similarly with this one here, let's move that along. We can fold that and like so, and find our centre on this one also. Okay, so it's a little bit different in that usually we think right sides together and we're going to turn it through. But on this occasion, we are going to be top stitching along some of the edges. So what we're going to have actually is lining sides together. So we're going to put our lining piece underneath, and we're going to line this pin with that pin. Let's just take that one out of the way. We're going to, and I'll take, let's see, I'll move that along a bit. So I'm going to line up that pin on the main piece and the pin on, so I might lift it, that might be the easier. So we're going to line both of those pins up like that. And because they line up now, I can take one of the clips away and join that together. And similarly here, take that one away, take those pins out. And then we'll do the same on the other side. Let's just turn that over there. Let's turn that out of the way. And let's line up. So I've got the long piece here. There is my pin there. And I'm lining the 2 of those pins up. And then we can take that clip and hold that together. And I'll put another one, if I find just one more. We'll put another one on this side, and I can take those 2 pins out now. So all we're going to do is top stitch along here. So let's move that one out of the way because we don't want to stitch that one. And then on here, there we go. We are going to, I'm using the same stitch length, but I'm lining up that corner point here. And you can either, well, one or the other, you can either reverse at the top here, or what I've taken to doing is doing an on-the-spot stitch, like so. And then I am stitching about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. And I'm making sure these line up so that we're stitching through all the layers. And I can take that off now. Just keep lining that up as we go. And we're going just down to the end and probably a fraction. I wouldn't go past the end here, but a fraction away, and I can just go on the spot there. So there is our top piece there. Let's clip that little bit off, and we can clip that bit off. You can see I'm using contrasting thread, mainly, one, because I'm lazy, but 2, because you can see where I'm stitching. So let's just clip those little bits. But a contrasting thread is really a good idea if you have some. There we go. So having done that side panel, I'm going to do this one as well. So that one is going just here. We've got our clips on. And again, let's just start at that top corner and we'll stitch. There we go. So let's watch that. I'm going to take that one out. Just watch that this is all lining up. You can see that's poking out just a little bit. I don't know why that's it. So just poke that in so that these edges line up without excess fabric, There we are. And as I say, 1/4 inch in from the side. And carry on. Let's hope that one's lined up just there. That's it. Keep those in and all the way down here, down to this bottom part. And just before the corner, we can stitch on the spot. Okay, so again, let's just cut that piece of thread, and there, and those two just there. So we have our side panels. Now we're going to lift one of the adjacent sides. So a side here, just like we've done in other projects, and we're going to line that up there and take that down to the bottom here. So I don't usually pin, but you can if you would like to. So again, into that top corner. So you can either, I'll reverse at this one, and then carry on down this edge. And we're going to do the same at each of the 4 corners. So let's just make sure that aligns. All the way down here. I've got my, there we are, just, if you've got a stiletto, or as I'm using the seam ripper, and when you come to the bottom, I will do a stitch on the spot. Okay, so once we have that one in place, you can see it's all nice and neat on the inside. We'll do the same at this end. So what we're doing, we are stitching on the outside rather than stitching the lining pieces together. So let's just line that up, and then that just fits nicely down to that end there. So what I will say, stitching on the spot does keep your points aligned, these corners aligned, much more than if you reverse, because when you reverse, it tends to pull one piece away from the other, because I can see that's what's just happened on the other side. So one is slightly higher. I mean, it isn't really noticeable, but it does move your fabric a little bit as it goes backwards and then forwards again. So this way, that's it, down to that corner, and then I will reverse. No, I won't. I will stitch on the spot just there. And then we will go, so that's one end or one side there. So then we're going to bring the other one together here. So let's line that end up first, and then that fits nicely down there. So the stitching on the spot is a button which has a dot on it. So I would give that a little play with before you go into, if you've never used it before. But as I say, it's just a little black dot, and the needle just goes up and down. So let's just hold that together and down to the bottom there, and again stitch on the spot. And then the last one here up to the top, always align the top edge, and the bottom will sort itself out. So under the needle in the corner, stitching on the spot, and then off we go down this final side. So just make sure these are, I can see that's just moved just a little bit, but just make sure they're lined up. And then when you get right down to the corner, that will all be stitching on the spot again, just to tie off. Okay, so we can then cut those little bits of thread just there, and there'll be them at the top edge of as well. So let's just cut that thread just there, and whoops, there is a there we are. Get some decent scissors, Trisha. There we go. So there I have my bag. Okay. Whoops, let's just take that up a little bit. There we are. So, and what happens is these sides, because we've top stitched on the outside, it automatically folds in nicely like that. Now, the only thing we need to make now is the little flap that goes across there. So what I'm going to do, I have got my 2 pieces and I'm going to put them right sides together, and I'm really going to do exactly like I did for the other bigger pieces. I'm going to leave a gap in the side and stitch all the way around the edge. So 1/4 inch from the edge, and I'll just reverse at the beginning there, and one more. Okay, and across the top. Now this doesn't really matter how big you do it or how small, or if you don't stick to your 1/4 inch seam. I wanted the flap to go almost, well, in between the 2 handles, but I just wanted it to fit snugly in between. Oh, this is where I started. So again, leave yourself a decent opening, and then just reverse there. So I've left my opening here. I'm going to do exactly the same as we did before. Just fold that back. Actually, we'll fold the other side because that's got fusible fleece on. So let's just fold that back. And then also, if you want to round it, you can round that flap, or like I did, make a point. So on the opposite 2 ends, which is here, I'm just going to clip those ones off. And then here, I'm going to fold it in half, and I'm just going to cut across here to make a point. Okay, so I've cut that bit off, but I'm just going to stitch here and here now. So let's just pop that down. So I'm just going to stitch right off there, and then I'm going to start at this side, and I'm going to stitch from here as well. So that's just giving me a pointy bit for my flap. So I'll cut a little bit off there, cut that off there, just to trim those down so that we get nice points there. Right, so fingers into the inside, pull that through, push it through there. And I think this would look nice if it were a contrast colour for the flap, because it does sort of blend in with it. But if you're seeing it in the flesh, you'll see it does look quite nice being the same colour as well. So let's just push this corner out. Okay, and then up to this pointy bit very carefully, because I'm pushing that. So I'm going to push my finger in there, just so I get the majority of it out there. That's it. You can see that point coming now as well. So just push that out, push that side out, and then into the top just there. Okay, so now we need to fold that in so that it meets. I'm not going to move the camera again, but I'm just going to take that to the iron and give that a press. And then we're just going to top stitch around the edge. And I think this part in particular is quite important to have that nicely, there we are, to have it nicely, just going to pull that little bit out there. I can see it's not fully out. That's it. Nicely pressed, and that side nicely straight. So you can't actually see that that's where we left it open. So that's it, that's all. Right, all nicely done now. And I'm just going to stitch all the way around the edge. So I'm going to start just down from the top. So this piece is going to go on the back. And I want to actually do a longer stitch length. So I have on one of the others, I have done a little bit of triple stitching, but on this one I've just done some normal straight stitching, but it would also look nice with decorative stitching along here. So I'm just going down here, down these sides, and I'm going around the whole way around, because when we attach it, that's it, went a little bit too far there. When we attach it, we are going to stitch on the line that we have already stitched. Okay, so you can't see where I started and stopped there. So let's just get this little bits of thread trimmed off. I'm going to make sure that goes underneath. So there is my top. Well, there's a little bit of thread coming out there. Let's get rid of that. Okay, now I will need to take off the extension cable because I'm going to use my free arm to be able to put the bag in here, which is really nice to be able to do. So there is my bag, and this is going to fit between the handles. So it's going over the back. Right, so there, if you see between the handles, here is the back, and I'm going to center it between the handles. I can see that there, and make sure that's straight. So I'm going to put a pin or two across here to keep it straight. So one there. If you put one, sometimes it doesn't hold firm. So then, when this comes over, actually I might put it on the other side. I think where I didn't use my fusible fleece the whole way up, that side is a little bit flimsier. So let's put that like that. And that's halfway between, centrally between those handles. And just double check that there. And we'll put another pin just there. So then I'm going to put this under this arm here so that I can stitch across here. Now I'm going to do what looks like, let's just put that under there, that's it. I'm going to do what looks like a rectangle box, but I am only going to be stitching, I'm only going to be stitching in one direction because it's very hard to actually be able to turn it and go back. So I'm going to stitch on the line that has been stitched. So let's just, I'll just revert. So I'm stitching on, not quite on it now. I'm going to stitch on the line that I have stitched already. And let's just do 2 or 3 stitches back just to keep that secure. And then I'm going to cut the thread. And then, let's just take that one out. I'm going to do another stitch line about, say, 1/4 of an inch from that previous line. So I'll do it just here. So, and then starting at my stitching from the outside. So I'm just going to go straight across there. So all I'm missing is the line of stitching that goes across. And you'll never know that, or it won't make it any. So you can see there, I've got a rectangular box. Let's just take that off there. And it looks as if I have stitched a box there, but you can't tell that. And that's nice and secure. So all that's left to do is to put our, let's tuck that down, pop that there. Actually, what I could do, you could actually stitch across there if you wanted to, but I'm going to bring that together. Whoops, bring that up there, like that. Bring that over and see where that wants to sit. So with the tops of the bag together, let's put a clip on there just to hold it, and there. And then all we're doing is gauging where this needs to go. So just bring that over like so. And then we need a pen. Let me see, have I got a pen? You won't be able to see this, but I have got a purple pen. So we want that to be just about, the fluff on there, above that point. So we'll put that just there. Now I can see that little mark, that hole, and that hole has gone through. So then when we put that against the bag, making sure that's nice and central, we can then put the pen through that hole so that I know where. There, I can just see that now. I can see that just here. So that's where my other cam snap needs to go. So I'll take those off now. And I just want to, I've lost it now. Oh, there it is down there. Okay, so I can see just where it is, just there. So again, just take that out. Okay, and sometimes the one behind doesn't go anywhere, but that's it, that's fine. So what colour shall we put? I think I'm going to put cream cam snaps in here. So we will have I'll do the underneath one first, so I'm putting my button underneath, because this is the one that's on the front of the bag underneath the flap, and I'm going to put my innie I like to have there. So we can then take our pliers and make sure the button goes in there and that on there. So that's the harder one to do, which is down here. And then I just want the one that's on the flap. So this time we want the button on the outside, and we want an outie on the inside. So my fingers are holding that together. So I'm going to put the button into the cap, and then the bit that just squashes it down is there. And we can then just pop that together, and it's closed. So you've got a nice square bottom, nice flat square bottom, and your bag is finished. So I'm going to come back up to see you there and show you exactly. Oh, there's Pauline now. So there we have the two different. So that is the smaller one. You can see it a little bit closer up there. And here is, in the same colours, the larger one. Okay, so you can see there the larger one and the smaller one. And as I said, with the larger one, what I then did was pop poppers on that inside edge. So can you see, you can see the button on the inside there, but it just holds that extra bit together, and on the other side, so it's nice and secure. And then the flap goes over the front and does up there. So that is your larger size, and there is your smaller size. Okay, I haven't done any kits for this particular bag, because I don't know why, because it seems that less of you are ordering kits these days. But if you would like one, you can always email me and I'll make a kit up. I'll think about a price for them, and I can always do that. This is a Regency Somerset Blues fabric by Moda, which is particularly lovely. And the red one I have done, or the sort of russety red, this one is a Macawa, but it's by Jo Morton, who used to have her fabrics printed by Moda, but she's now gone with Macawa. So there we are. So, yeah. Oh, yes, I will. I probably made a mistake, Kathleen, so don't worry. I looked, because it was June the 1st, and I looked down the dunes, and I may have missed it. So I do apologise if I have. Okay. So there we are. That is the make for the month of June. So it has been, I love making it, and I'm sure I shall make some more. Not particularly difficult, I hope you think. Just trimming a little bit of thread. Oh, that's it. I have this little bugbear of having threads sticking off there where they shouldn't be. But yeah, so that's the one we've made tonight. Really didn't take that long at all. And just nice to have over your hand, over your arm, if you're out and about. Great to fill with fabric. Yep, children's fabric. Oh, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? It would be lovely, Jane. Okay, where are we? Oh, we are. Very good. So about an hour, we had a nice little chat at the beginning. And yes, I had made a little bit of beforehand. Oh, I must say thank you very much to the weather, though. We haven't had another downpour or noise, which meant that I'd have to go somewhere else. Yes, actually, it would be a great Prezi carrier, wouldn't it? Yeah, we're thinking Christmas already. We're nearly halfway through the year. Oh, would it be hard to put pockets in? You could put pockets in if you want to, Kathleen. What I would do is on your lining fabric, put some pockets on there, patch pockets or a zip pocket if you wanted to, before you pop it all together. And as this outer piece comes down basically to 18 inches, if you do it in the top 6 inches or at one side or the other, it will fit in the right place. There you go. As simple as that. Okay, thank you, Carolyn. And thank you, everybody, for joining me this evening. I am wishing you have a lovely evening. And just to say that on Thursday, I've got a super summer fabric sale. I've got lots more fabrics ready to bring you. And then on Friday, where are they? I have got this cute little bunny. Oh, now I made this. I made this little one. He's been washed because he was dusty and he is actually faded. I made this years ago, probably 10 years ago. And he suddenly came to the surface when I'm moving things about. And I thought, oh, I must make one of these. So I hunted and I have made one in pink spotty. So you in the Sew with Trisha group will get the little pattern for this, but I will be demonstrating in the Sew Trisha Sews group. Okay, so that's the group where you put your pictures of your makes, and you'll get the pattern for this though in the group we're in tonight. So I hope you look forward to it. Anyhow, I'm going to leave you now because it's dinner time, and I will see you on Thursday, hopefully, and then Friday. So take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.